Gonna vote me off, huh? Huh? Well, what about this? Nah, I got no animosity. I had a feeling I was gonna go off this week. Like I said, I knew mine was not gonna be the best. I thought my content might drag me through it, but if I was gonna have to go, I'd prefer to be that one. Congratulations to everybody that moved on, and everybody out there keep watching the contest. But guys, you lost the special effects. I was gonna wait till I found something that I hated and use this one. You lost it. See.
Welcome once again to Who Reviews the Reviewers. It's round 4, and I'm Captain Logan. Let me introduce my co-host, all the way from the bottle city of Candor. It's the real Manos.
Hello, folks.
And deep from the frozen tundra, it's the Review Spot.
If you take the word clown and put the C and L together, that's down, and that's not funny at all.
Not clown.
And locked in a dark and damp basement somewhere in downtown Chicago, it's Vince.
Stuffy in here. Does anybody have some, aspirin or something?
And finally, he's somewhere where he doesn't know where he is. It's Mr. Fusion.
Well, wherever I am, I have a new HD TV, and you should all be jealous of me.
Ooh, we are. Don't get lost.
I want to lose that TV.
He's in the middle of the woods with a giant TV, just going, it's mine!
If only I had electricity!
Well, we're back once again to judge some reviewers. Last time we unfortunately had to vote off Sid Part 2. He played an awesome game. We're really sorry to see him go. Funniest sign-off video ever.
I agree.
I like the lightsaber.
But also the funny.
That's true, but it was awesome. Anyway, everybody be sure to subscribe to Sid Part 2. He's doing all kinds of cool things. He's got a new movie coming out soon. I don't know if it's out already or if it's about to come out, but anyway, it's coming out. And Vince and I are in it, so you should totally watch it. And just to remind everyone, because we haven't done this in a while, the prizes for whoever wins, we've got 5 people left, and eventually the winner, of course, is going to win a $100 gift card to Amazon.com. They're going to be featured in a review panel with us as soon as we do the one with Lance, and they're also going to be featured in a podcast with me and Mitz as soon as we do the one with Lance. So the challenge for this time was very different. We asked all of the reviewers to review a short story. So we're looking for critical analysis of short fiction, and let's jump right into it. The first person we're going to talk about is Milan Jeff in 1992. He reviewed an H.P. Lovecraft story called The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Greetings and salutations, gentlemen and ladies. This is Milan Jeff 1992 here for Geekvolution's Who Reviews the Reviewers competition. And today I shall be reviewing a short story penned by the kooky, by the terrifying, by the insane H.P. Lovecraft. And the kooky story in question that I shall be reviewing is The Shadow over Innsmouth. A terrifying tale of creatures from the sea, a dilapidated town, and a horrible, horrible, horrible ancestry. But first, a word from our sponsor, Mr. Yuxathoth. Oh, Mr. Yuxathoth, you're such a wit, always knowing what to say at the right time. But anyway...
And we're going to start this time with Vince.
Dun, dun, dun! It's me! So, yes, I supplied my own intro music. Anyway, Milan Jeff, as usual, he has a very good humor styling. I think that's, to his greatest strength in his video. But also, in keeping with his last video, it's the review's an afterthought. It's not the main point of the video. He doesn't get to it until the very end, and when he does, he doesn't actually review the story. He reviews H.P. Lovecraft's overall writing style. So not his writing style in this story specifically, but Lovecraft. And so he doesn't really get to the guts of the story. He doesn't really do anything other than summarize and provide a bunch of, extra entertainment, which isn't necessarily essential. It wasn't necessarily not welcome. I enjoyed the video, but it's like only partly a review. Like it's only a fraction of review. So, I mean, I like what he said about you feel like you're walking through Innsmouth, but he doesn't really go far enough. He doesn't really tell us why we feel like we're walking through Innsmouth. He doesn't really say anything beyond the fact that we're walking through Innsmouth. So it's not good enough for me. He made a good video, but the review isn't enough of a review.
I'm gonna have to agree with Vince. I really enjoyed the review in the feel and the tone that he was going about, but unfortunately, because you have the tools and you have the skills to put together a video like that, doesn't necessarily mean at the end of the day you're putting a solid review together. I found a lot of the time I was being really distracted with what he was doing to the video, with the background music, the transitions. I found especially cutting away from what looked as if he was going towards a review, and then using that kind of the monster sound and the interruption of like the radio transmission. It seemed like he had too much going on, that he wasn't spending enough time on the review itself. And I think by the time he really got to really discussing anything about the book, it seemed as if the video was already done. And as well as and polished as the review was, it just goes to show that just because you have all the tools at your disposal doesn't make it necessarily for a fantastic review, I think, at the end of the day. Good effort. I think just too much emphasis on setting a mood, I think.
I really did enjoy the framing sequence of the video, using the radio almost in an Orson Welles War of the Worlds kind of fashion, actually. And what's that?
So that was pretty cool. I was agreeing.
Yeah, I mean, that was really great. It really did create a good atmosphere. I mean, if you're going to take on something like Lovecraft, part of the fun is having fun with it and going into the atmosphere, whatever story it is. I also thought that I think that I was really impressed by the variety of picks he used for the video. I think he almost in a way used it to help tell the story just as much as anything he said with his own mouth, actually. I do think there was some review to it. Maybe not as much as maybe some of the others, but I did at least get a sense of his opinion of the story. Maybe if he had been a little more critical on some of it, because I've heard people come up with, even people who love Lovecraft, are still able to come up with some points that they didn't particularly care for. But otherwise, I enjoyed it more than the both of you.
Well, I enjoyed it more than those two as well, because this is the one I enjoyed the most. That's for sure. I enjoyed it more than any of the other ones. I do agree. I remember thinking the same thing, that there was a very lot of tone to it, and getting to a certain point, looking at the timeline on the video, wondering when the review was going to start, and then ending up going, okay, well, that was just Lovecraft in general. I suppose my question is it possible to tell a review in an unorthodox way using tone and images rather than explicitly stating review-type topics?
I don't think so critically.
I think so.
I think you could recommend it that way. I don't think
you could recommend it, yeah, but I mean, but what exactly? What with visuals is he saying is wrong with it?
Oh, with visuals? Oh, what he's saying is wrong. I'm not sure if you could really.
That's my point. Yeah. Is I don't know if you can critically review something just visually. I mean, you can recommend it or you can retell the story, but I mean, at some point, if you're going to have a critical analysis, you have to either say these are my problems with it or I couldn't find any.
Well, to criticize rather than praise what's good about it, if you're going to take pieces here and there, that's up to the verbal portion of the review. There's really nothing you can really use visually unless you have some really cartoony stuff making fun of the story.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is just taking it out into a more perspective kind of view, but I suppose that he could have used the radio chats with Cthulhu, I guess, to more subtly express a viewpoint. Of course, I'm talking more, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I don't think that it does measure up as a review as much as it probably could. I do see the merit in what he did, though, and like I said, it's the one I enjoy the most. That doesn't mean that it ends up being the best review. I think he definitely could have taken that format and put an integrated more review into it, but as a visual presentation, as setting up a tone for Lovecraft, setting up a tone for the story, it succeeds on that level. It just doesn't succeed on every level.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think Vince and I are right in line together on this one. He got a really good portion of what we were asking for this challenge, but I felt like he missed a good portion of it as well. Part of the point of this one was to see what visually you can put on the screen to keep us interested and to keep us entertained with something that's really difficult to get visuals for, like a short story, because nothing immediately jumps to your head and says, with a short story, oh, obviously I'm going to show this on screen. He's got that, and I think he did the best job of that. Well, maybe the best or second or right there, right at the top of the reviewers this week. But the other portion of it, which was don't just give a synopsis, start with a synopsis and then move your way into review. I'm with Vince. I feel like that didn't really happen. He's got a really good sense of storytelling. I got to the point where I was like, man, I wish this wasn't supposed to be a review, because if he had another 5 minutes and he could just tell me the story, I would be really engaged, because he's great at that. He's a really good performer, this is quite the presentation, and I thought that the running gag with the monster was hilarious.
Yeah, me too.
And then when suddenly he couldn't even pronounce it anymore, he's like, whatever your name is. It was great. It was hilarious. And he does give his opinion on a few things, like when he talks about, maybe it's a novella, but I think it's more of a short story, but I just don't feel like he goes in depth enough. We asked for critical analysis. We were arguing a little bit earlier about whether it was critical. I don't think it's even analysis. I mean, I think that it is a very, very well put together dramatic synopsis. But that's not what we asked for, So I mean, it really suffers in that respect. I felt like he made me really get into this story, and that was the best part about it.
I just want to second that it was probably out of the videos this week, I think it was easily the best performed.
I was the most entertained by, I think, this review.
Definitely.
Okay, moving on then to the Curious Low's review of Zombiecorns by John Green.
Hello, it's the Curious Low. Lauren here with another review. Now today I have Zombiecorn by John Green, but this is a book review and I do feel a little bit underdressed. 1 second. Ah, yes. Much better. This dress is, quite chocolatey, don't you think? Yes. Quite. Now, you might think this book is about mystical undead horses, but as the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. Zombiecorn is the story of Mia, a 16-year-old girl in the midst of the zombie apocalypse. Only, it's not your average zombie apocalypse. These zombies aren't obsessed with killing for brains, blood, or flesh. They're obsessed with the planting of corn.
And we move back to Vince.
What a strange choice.
I was thinking that too.
I'm not judging her, but she can choose whatever she wants. I'm just saying, what a strange choice.
You're a judge.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm making a validating statement. Anyway, I think it's a cool choice. I mean, why not choose something that's a little bizarre, or maybe something that somebody hasn't heard of? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I thought her humor was funny. I like that she got up and changed clothes for it. I mean, I thought that was interesting. She makes plenty of judgments, and she takes a stab at the theme, which I fully support people trying to do. I would have liked to have seen her go a little bit more in depth and make qualitative statements as to why things are, as she said, relevant. So she would say, which is very relevant to teens of today. Well, what makes it relevant, and what what is it really trying to say about teens today? And that's, if you're going to take a stab at them, I'd say, go a little bit further, and that helps you analyze the book, and it starts, you start getting into different aspects of the story, and just by trying to explain yourself and why you think things the way they are in the book. So there's nothing wrong with what she did. I just think she could have taken it further. I think she has the ability to have taken it further. I think that sometimes people just tend to forget that they have to qualify certain statements when they're, reviewing or writing a paper or an essay or something of that kind.
First of all, I love the obscurity of the material that she chose. I've never heard of this book before, and when she starts reading about it, or she starts talking about it, I was really interested with what she was going on about. The one problem I really have with Curious Low is I find after a while she clearly has a good understanding of what she's discussing. She clearly has a good presence on camera. She clearly has a good confidence to what she's doing. But I find the problem with Curious Low too is all of the things that I've just listed also become a bit of a crutch for her, because I find after a while it becomes very more of the same from what she's putting out there for these challenges. I found she did a very good job of explaining the book. The one problem I had really with it, and I probably am the only one that thought this, was she brings a lot of life to her videos, but sometimes she speaks a little too fast. And I find any other challenge, if she had been reviewing like a drink, or she reviewing the actor that she had done, worked all fine. But when you're trying to put in so much detail of a book and you're talking really, really fast, I found I had a tough time. I had actually watched this particular video about 2 or 3 times just to get all the material that she was discussing, because I found she was really banging it out at an alarming speed that I wasn't really following it as much as I should. I mean, I thought she did a very good job, but I don't know if I just kind of felt like I was watching pretty much the same kind of material that she had been doing all along, and really only using the one still and then going back to her on camera. I would have liked at least if she was holding the book or something other than just her on camera. But still a very good video, though, nonetheless. I mean, I can't knock it. I mean, she did still a great job from it.
She did bring that drink with her, which was a little bit on the noisy side.
And of course the dress, yeah.
Yeah, and the hollow book at the end.
I like that at the very end.
I don't think you can knock her too hard for not having a copy of the book, because I think it's only an ebook. I'm not sure if you can even get it in print.
It is only an ebook.
I did a little bit of research on it to figure out what it was, and yeah, I don't think you can read it any other way.
Okay, then. I stand corrected then.
No, good points. I just thought I'd throw that out there real quick.
It's cool that she has a hollow book.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I want to know what she normally keeps in the hollowed book.
Ditto.
She keeps ebooks in there.
It's holy water.
She keeps her Kindle inside of her hollow book.
That would be a great place for a Kindle. Go ahead, Manos.
All right. Well, I thought that Milan Jeff's video and his performance was the best performance of the week. I think the second best and very close was Curious Low's.
I second that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think she brought really something new to her persona with the costume change and the drink. It was very brave of her to do this week's video drunk. And I applaud that, and I think maybe we should do a drunk challenge in the future.
Now that's playing the game.
And
all of our contestants under 21 are going to have a tough time of doing this.
Manos, why do you always give away the next challenge, dude?
Oops. Oh well.
Why do you do that? I
also enjoyed the choice. I enjoyed a lot of the choices this time around. It was a nice mix.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fact that she chose something odd. And if I could just describe it in that fashion, she's very in depth with. I don't know. I think it was probably very well balanced with humor and information. I thought, and I think as far as her persona, what she puts out there in her videos each week, I thought this was her best performance, really, and I thought she kind of had fun with something different. So that's pretty much what I got.
Manos, I agree 100% with what you just said. This was, in my opinion, her absolute best video so far. I suspect that she worked harder on this than any of the others, and I'll tell you why. I think this was completely scripted.
Yes, I
this one,
more planned.
This one sounded read, and not read in a bad way. It sounded scripted. It sounded like it was rehearsed and rehearsed well. The cuts felt like they were in much more natural places than they've been before, and I think it was because, and again, I could be wrong, but she was either reading off of something she had in front of her, and if she figured out what to do with that, kudos to her, because I've never come up with a really good way to do that myself, but also, without just building or buying a teleprompter, but I suspect that instead of doing that, she was memorizing it in portions, and, if she has the time to do her videos that way, in my opinion, she needs to go that way every time, because this was the most polished I've ever seen her. This was technically her best work. It was the best edited. I really liked how sometimes between edits she would be up close to the camera. Sometimes she'd be farther away from the camera. Like I said, everything seemed much more natural. That played really well for comedy, and she seemed so much happier in front of the camera. I don't think out of all of the challenges I've ever seen her have this much presence, confidence, and spunk. It was fantastic technically in every way. I also thought, did I skip Lance?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry, Lance. You can go last on this one. Jeez, I can't believe I did that. I just realized I was like, and actually, I thought of a point that I was going to make, and then I thought I'll let Lance make that point, and then I went, wait a minute, Lance should. So anyway, I'm not going to make that point because I know Lance will mention that point. Anyway, but Lance knows what I'm talking about. I thought that. And I thought that it was really well organized because it was so planned out ahead. She didn't spend the whole time giving synopsis, but a lot of the synopsis that she did give was woven really well into her analysis, and I was looking for that, and that was really good. And she was funny, bringing back the old "oh flaws" joke. It was in a perfect place, and it really made me laugh. And I like that she waited this long before she used it. This far into the season, and I loved almost everything about this. So kudos.
Kudos
her
for
best
that.
video. Her best video. Stay scripted if you're scripted, because that was great. Lance.
Well, first off, I want to welcome the Curious Low as a member of our club. She's now become the second Who Reviews Reviewers contestant to wear a dress in one of her videos. There were certainly elements of this that I really enjoyed. As you mentioned, the editing was much tighter than before, and it did rather than hinder what she was doing, it actually tightened and made things funnier. I remember there was a spot where she was just starting to go in for a drink of her glass, and it cuts away, and I don't know why, just the way it clipped right there was just really funny. And so there were just moments where her editing really worked for her a lot better than it had in the past. And just mundane moments that wouldn't have seemed spectacular if it hadn't been cut. If it had been cut any other way. Some of the problems that I do have were with some of the style choices she did choose in this video, and some of them I didn't feel she took far enough. Unlike most of the other contestants, in fact, I think she's the only contestant in this challenge who was on camera. Except for SXE Blues' screenshot of himself, stuff like that, and Milan Jeff's drawing. And she doesn't use many other images besides herself, so her visual element is the dressing up classy or having the drink. Yet she frames herself in a way that you can barely see the dress for most of the video. I'm not saying that showing a dress is a very important part of a review, but if it's what you set up as being your visual element. Well, she walks into the frame, and you do get a second where she really does lean into the camera for a moment. But other than that, she's pretty much out of the frame from the neck down, which is kind of a shame if you're going to be using that. And the same thing, she starts off the review with a faux British accent, and then it just disappears. It doesn't end for any particular reason. I'm not saying I would have liked her to do the whole review with that, because that would have gotten distracting. But I sort of think of Milan Jeff's video where he actually does like a Texan or Southern accent during his little radio thing, but it's for a definite purpose. It starts at a very definite time, ends at a very definite time, and serves as a joke in that sense. Where hers just sort of is there and then goes away. And then there's the I had to research this book as well. I'd never heard of it. It did sound very interesting to me based on what she said. The only problem was when I went to go look it up. She has it listed as zombie corn on her video, and it is zombie corns. And I couldn't find anything about it until we started doing more in-depth research for that, because I couldn't find it.
And that's the point I thought I'd let you make.
Yeah, I figured that was it. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But yeah, congratulations on joining the Who Reviews the Reviewers Dress Club.
I will say that is, I do have to agree. I know it really sounded like I ripped into her into this challenge, but I do have to agree with all you guys. This was definitely, of the ones she's done, this is her best. This is by far her best work.
It's certainly her most ambitious.
I wish I would.
Yeah, I thought she took some risks,
more, but
and I've been waiting for that. Yeah,
I do agree with you guys though on the editing and everything else, and it was much more polished than the other ones.
I just wish there had been more visually interesting shots, like when she was up at the bookcase like that. I wish there had been more shots like that.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was hoping for, where it wasn't just one, just her in front of the camera sitting and then holding the drink. Because the only thing that really changed, aside from the cuts, was just the placement of the glass. And it would have been nice maybe if it had cut it and she had been closer to a bookcase, leaning against the bookcase, something just to break up the same thing.
Yeah, I think that because I caught on to her organization, it felt so different to me than our other videos. But I totally see what you guys are saying. I mean, part of the point of this challenge was to see what you could do visually, and she was obviously attempting that. But I can see the criticisms too. Let's go ahead and I'm sorry.
I want to say one thing.
Oh no, I'm not sure if she needed any more visuals. I think the dress frankly were strong enough to last. And of course, the rest of the video would be balanced on what she had to say about the story. So I thought she gave us enough, frankly.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say that the O'Flaws reference was funny to me based on the idea that I could see her husband sitting there with his little pretentious laugh at a computer watching this thing.
I wonder if he was doing that.
It was like, oh, references.
I miss Corellian. We should have him in on as a guest judge one of these days.
Yeah, as long as he's not replacing me, that would be a shame.
Oh no, he would totally be replacing Lance. No, I'm kidding.
No, I miss Mr. Corellian too.
Anyway,
He'd replace the toy guy over here.
Thanos?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on then to Zazubar's review of Quantum of Solace by Ian Fleming. A very unexpected choice.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. I am Zazubar, here with a very different sort of review of a very different sort of James Bond story written by Ian Fleming. James Bond is one of those few fictional characters who has barely changed over the decades he's been appearing in books and on film. It's especially unusual since Bond's first appearance in text was in 1954's Casino Royale, where he was first established as a suave super spy who was dripping with sophistication and charm. In contrast to characters created during the same period like Godzilla, who has gone through some major changes after over 50 years of presence in pop culture. Not James Bond, though. He's still the same suave super spy who simply can't be killed no matter how many bullets, assassins, or explosions his enemies throw at him. Bond stories tend to be more often plot-driven than they are character-driven, since again, Bond never really changes or learns anything over the course of the story, and generally, he doesn't even choose the enemy he's fighting.
I'll say that I haven't read the story, but from his summary of the story, it seemed like he was saying that most of the story is taken up by Bond listening to this guy just tell about this event in his life. Did you guys get that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so it's not just me. Okay, good. I was like, did I miss something? But, he does a decent job of reviewing. He does, he makes judgments as he goes through his summary. So, he manages to mix his review and his summary together, which, I found really interesting. And I was able to follow him along and go, okay, review, summary. But, the thing that I kind of questioned was some of his judgment calls. And again, I haven't read the story, but it just seems strange to me. Like, he says you learn a lot about Bond, even though he really doesn't do anything, and you're listening to, all he's doing is listening to this guy. And so I'd kind of like for him to substantiate that claim that you learn a lot. What do you really learn about him other than the fact that he listens to somebody and has human feelings, which I suppose was his point, was that Bond isn't just this flat womanizer. He is a guy. He is a human being. And, the thing about it is that it never really occurred to me to question that to begin with, that somebody wouldn't be able to say, you know what, that stinks. He does address the idea that there's no character arc, but he calls it a small gripe, and I thought, that's a strange thing to call small, considering that's kind of what a story hinges on.
And he plays it up as being so much different from the other plot-driven stories, and I couldn't figure out why it was so different.
Yeah, it's because if Bond is the main character, then it's still highly plot-driven because he doesn't do anything. He does make a summary. I just kind of question his judgments there. And, good job for trying. I think you did well. I just think that, maybe I'm being a little bit too much of a, story snob here when I'm saying this, because I'm like, I went to school for this thing and it's supposed to be this way. And maybe...
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that.
And maybe the point is that he's reviewing a plot-driven thing, a genre fiction story, and it's not supposed to be literary by any means. But when he starts off and says that it's very different from the plot, other plot-driven ones, I'm like, that's kind of setting yourself up to fail when it is that way.
Well, really, aside from commenting on stuff that Vince has just mentioned about the character flaws and not really covering off enough of what made, what made Bond so, come up so short in the story, he didn't really get into that. And actually, I was worried for the most part while I was watching this review that he wasn't really even going to get into a review. It seemed as if for the beginning of the time, he was spending a lot of time on the background of the character, maybe in other stories, that I started asking myself, is he going to start getting clear and in-depth as to the synopsis of this particular story, how Bond works in this particular story, instead of kind of approaching the material as if it's like, hey, I've walked into a room, everybody in this room knows Bond, so I don't really have to say too much about Bond aside from he's not as much Bond in this movie, in this story as he is in every other story. And it's like, well, treat me like I'm an idiot. Treat me like I don't know anything about this Bond, and explain to me, maybe what Bond is in, what is he like as a whole, and then what he's like specifically in this story. And I didn't feel as if he was really doing that. He does provide some critique, but again, I think if one strike could be made, at least one that I noticed watching this review was he goes into it really with the intent that everybody knows the character that the story is based around. So he doesn't really have to spend a lot of time, almost as if he was saying, you've seen the movies, okay, cool, Bond. This story, he's not really like that. But more detail as to why would have been, I think, very crucial for this particular review.
Spawn, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Did you find the choice questionable on those rounds?
On this particular round with him?
Yeah, just the choice of that particular story. I'm wondering if he had enough room to do all of that, and if maybe that was necessary, maybe it was too long of a piece to do in this, or too complex of a piece to do in this particular challenge.
It's possible. It's funny. The first thought I had was, he's just seen Quantum of Solace. He's just totally going to give us the movie synopsis. Because I've done that. I've done that with book reports all the time. I used to my first book report was The Karate Kid 2. My second book report was Star Trek Voyage Home. I totally was going to the library and I was deliberately picking out books that I've seen the movie
That's
about.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. I first thought I'm thinking, this guy's
obviously you were an English guy.
I totally was, yeah. And I was thinking, this guy is totally just going to give us a synopsis. And of course, as he's reading the synopsis off to us, the movie was just on last week, at least here in Canada. So I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. No, that doesn't happen. So I knew he was actually reading a story, but yeah. Where was I going with this? What was I just talking about? I don't know.
Well, I'd like to know how long the story was. of course, again, I haven't read it and I didn't look into it. And
that was something I wanted to ask too, because what defined a short story? Like, is this Quantum of Solace a 10-page story? Like, is it?
Well, and what he showed was the cover of a book that was a book of short stories of Bond, and apparently this was one of them. So I just wonder how long it was. So I mean, the challenge. I mean, I don't think he messed with the rules of the challenge, because I mean we asked for something that's that's at least short of novella length. So I mean, I think he probably picked something that wasn't too long for the challenge. I just wonder if it was if it as a piece maybe was tough to do in 5 minutes.
It was a non-requirement, certainly, on your part to mention in the challenge, but I don't know, did anybody actually mention in the reviews how long these short stories were?
I don't think a single person did.
Well, actually, if you're going to bring that up, guys, actually, Milan Jeff does mention in his review that his is actually classified as a novella and is actually split, serialized into 5 parts, and then Zombie Corns as well really classifies more as a novella as well.
Well, right, I'm just saying I don't think anybody ever came right out and gave us a page count or a word count.
No page count or word count.
I would like the page count just as being somebody who I don't read a lot, and
I would have liked that too.
I would have liked to have said, okay, Quantum of Solace is a 200-page story or 150-page story, so I can kind of get a feel of how much could you really talk about Bond, or how much of Bond would be encompassed in a 150-page, 200-page story.
Well, that's the thing, is that if it had been that long, regardless of what size the pages were or what the font was, it would be a book and it would be too long.
Right.
I mean, like the longest anything in this could possibly be would be 30 to 35,000 words, and that's nearing book length because that's about novella. So,
okay.
You're talking the longest anything in this challenge should have been, if we're talking page count, would have been 60 to 80, and that's pushing it. We should have been looking for stuff more along the lines of 20 to 50.
Wow, okay.
I doubt Quantum of Solace was that long. I looked up the short story book it was in, and it has about 6 or 7 different Bond stories. So unless it was a dictionary-sized book, it couldn't have been that long.
Anyway, that's all very interesting. Let's go on to Manos.
I got an A once in English for my paper on Police Academy 2.
Nice.
That's a classic piece of literature there.
Some of the best work. Yeah.
It's my favorite Jane Austen.
I always thought that.
Now, I thought this was very interesting for a variety of reasons. I'll go into the Quantum of Solace story itself. Boy, it sure doesn't sound like the movie at all. And I mean, to say the least, what I think is interesting, I'd be interested to see when Fleming wrote this, because it almost sounds like a character piece, a small short story, kind of centered around maybe just a character moment for Bond, maybe not even a full character profile, as seen through him. Kind of, at this point, Bond is Bond, and he has this world he's living in, and that's all he lives and does. And to see the world through the eyes of someone else, I don't know, maybe from what he was describing in the story, was almost maybe a humbling moment for him, perhaps. Which I think is very interesting, that Fleming would do a story like that. I can't see that happening in a movie.
Manos published in 1960.
60. So, I don't know how many he did before that. But I don't know. The way he described the story I thought was very interesting. It did have me listening quite a bit. I did think at the beginning, we all know Bond, but I think it was nice to kind of put things in perspective slightly, which I think he did very well. As far as reviewing the book, reviewing the story, I think, of course, maybe he could have gone a little bit more into depth as far as that's concerned. But I felt he did enough for my tastes, and I got to give him props for comparing James Bond and Godzilla.
Bondzilla.
You never get the two comparisons normally, yeah.
Yeah. As far as the two long-standing characters, for almost the same amount of time, they're nothing alike, but they do have almost some weird kind of parallels. I really did enjoy it. Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't have too many. He didn't have too many visuals to work with. Maybe using other Bond visuals might have been nice, or we'll talk about. DPSTQ to something maybe similar to him by using maybe stock footage or something like that. I don't to kind of build a atmosphere. But yeah, other than that, I thought this was a pretty solid video.
Manos, I think he should have spent the entire video while he was talking putting together an AK-47. That's just me. Go ahead, Fusion.
And then at the end, shoot out the window and cut.
or like suddenly we see him on screen and he shoots the camera. Yeah. Of course, then he wouldn't have, footage.
Or you could just have silhouettes of women pointing guns at things.
And silhouettes of all kinds of other things. Like
Bond running across the arm of a woman who's got a gun in her hand. Stuff like that.
Yeah, eating a cheeseburger.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the American Bond.
It's the American Bond.
He's not running very fast, though. He's kind of hobbling because he
eats too many cheese.
He's a little overweight. He has to stop to wipe his brow and
take a swig of his Coke.
The American James Bond in Rascal of Doom.
Eat another day.
And see then, unlike Batman, when at the beginning he tells someone like M, it's like I'm going to get drive-through. See, that makes sense. All right, go ahead, Fusion.
Hey, I'm going to open by asking this question based on a point that Review Spot made earlier about the James Bond, who is James Bond, and this sort of relates when we get back to SXE Blues as well. If you're doing a short story that's a single episode of a series like Sherlock Holmes or James Bond, where if you simply take the work as a standalone piece of fiction, each individual story doesn't have James Bond's backstory or Sherlock Holmes's backstory, and that's not going to be explained in the work itself. So is it more important to have that sort of series information in there, or is it more important to take it what it is as a standalone piece of fiction and just go from there?
That's a really good question.
That is a good question.
I'm not sure I have an immediate answer.
I think the hard part, too, is taking a fictional character that is already so established that everybody, like myself, watching the review, you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I know Bond. And maybe
I know who that is. I know who Holmes is.
It would have benefited, yeah, exactly. It would have benefited me, going into it. I'm like, I have no idea who, Taylor Murphy is, who works the bartending school, tell me more about this guy. But I think maybe that was my biggest problem is I already kind of knew Bond, so I had that preconceived notion in my head.
I think for this particular challenge, giving that information at the beginning is harder, and I kind of applaud him for managing to get as much in as he did for 5 minutes, just because, we asked for more of a specific structure this challenge than we've ever asked before, where we're like, okay, open with a synopsis, you have to give a synopsis because you can't assume we've read these things, and then you go into your analysis. So it seems like that would make it a lot more complicated just to get that stuff in. So is it necessary? I think maybe a little bit. I think that just makes it a lot harder to do this in 5 minutes. To be honest with you, I didn't even expect serialized stuff in this. That didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I'm certainly not saying it's not a valid criticism that Spot brought up. I'm not sure myself. I just sort of thought about if a person had actually gone to the short story itself and read it for the first time and never been familiar with that, they'd have to. And same thing with the episode of a television series. You just have to sort of pick it up and figure it out based on context rather than actual spelling out of who the character is. So that's just something that I found was interesting, an interesting thought that I thought when Review Spot was doing his thing. So I'm just.
That's true, and this is neither here nor there, but you're absolutely right that you would need it from context. But I think that those stories, at both of those times, I know they're different time periods, but at both of those time periods, it was more expected that you would get stuff from the context rather than knowing all the background, more so than it is now when we're talking about serialized television, where you usually have a first episode that gives you all that background. And if you go back to Holmes or you go back to Bond, you didn't really have that.
No, yes, that's true. You're right. You didn't have that.
These were characters that you were supposed to be able to just pick up and start reading, and since they were archetypes, you didn't need to know their backgrounds or exactly where they came from.
All right, well, I guess I'll start with my actual discussion of
this
I'm sorry.
Now. That was very interesting.
Spent too much time posing a philosophical question about short story etiquette. As for Zazubar's, he does sort of not stray, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. He stays pretty close to his formula on this one. He opens up with a bit of backstory. I didn't think there was some there, probably maybe not enough if you were a complete neophyte to Bond, but there was some there, and then you go into the story, and he very much has a setup, and then set up the broad strokes and then do the review kind of style to him. And as Manos was saying, I did like how he sort of tied it into his channel. He knows that people from his channel are going to be watching this video, and so has to tie it into monster movies somehow.
Yeah, I love that.
Again, most of my notes, aside from Milan Jeff this time, who took a more unorthodox approach, I think most of my notes are more about the presentation and delivery and the workings of the video itself, because most of them did give pretty solid reviews. So with Zazubar, I have to say that I never thought I'd be saying this in terms of excitement, but he actually he could do to bring down the energy level just a little bit sometimes, because he's always a 10 every single time.
You make a valid point, yeah.
He's very and it's actually kind of funny. He pretty much starts every sentence with this huge inflection, like almost popping out there. And I think in order to get a point across, you really have to have different levels. Bring that stuff up, bring your voice up, bring your pitch up, bring your volume up when you have a very important point to make. But don't stay on that one note the entire time, because then it becomes as jarring as if you just stay in a monotone the entire time. And then also, visually, I found his odd. I don't generally feel compelled to take off the metaphorical points of an actual point system here, for not, if they only happen to have, a still image kind of thing. But what was odd about Zazubar's is that his sort of opening exposition was filled with all kinds of pictures, and then as soon as he got to the actual review, it was that one shot of the book cover, then it changed to another shot of the book cover, then went back to the first book cover, then back to the second one, and it just stayed on those two images the entire rest of the review, and it just started to become somewhat visually unappealing, if not for the fact that I enjoy seeing drawings of scantily clad women.
I thought that he was pretty critical, and I appreciated that. Although I do question all the stuff Vince questioned. And honestly, I think I question it more now after Vince made those points. Some of that wasn't stuff that occurred to me, and then I listened to Vince and say, yeah, you're right. You're actually kind of right about that. And I think that the problem was that with some of the other reviews this time, I felt like I was given sufficient information about what happens in the story to buy what they were selling. And in this one, I felt like I needed more. And again, I don't know if it was possible for him in the time limit to give all that much more, but there were some things that felt a little bit conflicting. Again, when he started off and said, it's not real, it's not plot driven like the others, and then at the end he said Bond doesn't really have a character arc, and I wondered, I was like, I need some information I don't have because I don't know how you got there. And I felt like watching this a couple times, I never really understood. I didn't feel like I was given all the information I needed to understand how he got there. I'm not saying he's wrong. I wouldn't know if he's wrong because I didn't read it, so I wasn't able to get there. I did really appreciate how personal this one was, and I felt like it was more so than some of the others, where obviously he has strong feelings about this one. This is a character he likes. This is a writer that he likes. He has, as Lance was saying, he has really great continuity with his other videos, where anybody who regularly watches him wouldn't watch this and be like, well, what? Who reviews the reviewers? What's that? Why are you talking about a Bond story? I mean, he really fits it in with his channel, and I think that's cool. And I think it's kind of key because we don't talk about this very much, but when we're talking about novice reviewers, as we all are on YouTube, part of the challenge. This isn't something we really judge on, but part of the challenge of doing this is to get people to come back and keep watching you. It's not a matter of just you post one video and it's awesome. A lot of people do that. Those become memes. But then what do you do after that? What do you do after you have that video that hits 10,000, 100,000, 500,000? How do you get people to keep coming back? And I think he's got a really good, solid handle on that. He builds a regular clientele of viewers, and then how does he keep those people coming back? That's something I think some other folks could learn from him. So that's really cool. Again, a lot of the points that I wanted to make, I think, got made earlier, and I made a little bit earlier. Moving on then to DPSTQ2's review of The Snows of Kilimanjaro by Ernest Hemingway.
Welcome to Who Reviews the Reviewers Presents. Tonight, we'll be discussing Ernest Hemingway's 1936 short story, The The Snows of Kilimanjaro. Our story centers around a would-be writer named Harry, whose ongoing adventurous lifestyle has landed him in Africa while on safari. This trek is but one of many journeys this writer has embarked upon, for he has experienced countrysides, cities, snowy Alps, and battlefields. He is so spellbound by both the beauty and horrors these odysseys have to offer. These moments become somewhat life-affirming, and it penetrates him enough to make him believe that he could express exactly what they mean as a writer. But it turns out that Harry gets so caught up in the moment, he doesn't feel the need to write down his feelings he cares to share with others.
I like this guy's video making. Like, he's gone from being one of my, I'm not going to say I didn't like him at the beginning. I'm going to say he's gone from being somebody that I didn't really consider as being a major player in this competition to being somebody that, I kind of look forward to his video each week now. And he did not disappoint in this. I think that this guy, I don't necessarily think that his performance is worthy of being, recorded. I'm not trying to say that's mean. I'm saying I think this guy has something that he has to offer for like documentary making. I think that he is well informed enough, except for maybe how to pronounce or spell Rod Serling's name. And
Let it go!
I think he's informed enough. I think he's good at making videos. I like him as a guy. I think he could be professional in some way. I just think, he needs to hone his craft. It's just creative video making. Anyway, he gives a decent summary. And while he goes along like Zazubar, he does make value judgments as the video progresses. And he demonstrates a deeper understanding of character motives and actions. And that is something that I think is key when you're trying to, review anything that's narrative based. If you can tell me that if you can show me that you fully understand what characters are doing and why they're doing it, then you are one step closer to having a full-fledged analysis on your hands. So, I think he did a very good job, and I'm kind of done talking.
The one point that Vince just made about him honing his skills, I think, is the best way I can describe my feelings towards his review. He's definitely improved vastly from the kind of challenge videos he was doing before. Even though I liked the the spelling, of course, all things considered, but I really liked his last challenge entry as well. The one problem I had with the video is the video would have served better to me as an audio review versus a video review. And I'm probably going to be the only one who thinks this, but I found that the biggest problem I had with this review was visually watching it, because it seemed as if to me, while some of the video clips that he used through the narrative of the review itself, it found to me like it seemed as if he had just gotten the keys to a stockpile of video stock footage, and the stuff he was just throwing at me, at times I was asking myself, I don't know how it's connected to the narrative currently that's going on. I mean, at one point I was watching, I'm thinking, am I watching the nature of things, or am I watching, National Geographic kind of thing? It seemed it worked, but there was a lot of times where I'm thinking the videos that he's using aren't working as well, I think, as he had hoped. But he definitely has the ability to narrate a very calm, very concise opinion of the material that he's reviewing. It's hard because I don't want to critique the guy for what he did, because he did a great job of it. I think he just had an abundance of the wrong video footage to go with his narrative. I think just a couple of it, I don't know. I might be the only one to think that, but
there did seem like there were some times where things were a little counterintuitive to what would be on the screen, but I thought he was trying to make some sort of a symbolic point, like urban jungle stuff, which was a little stereotyped to me, but still.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I was trying to think to myself, well, maybe he's trying to establish a mood. But then there was other times where I'm watching, I'm like, is that just like water running off of a rock? And I'm like, how is that really going with the narrative of what he's discussing? And actually, in fact, had I just listened to the audio end of it, I probably would have been more engaged with the review itself, because the two almost at times butted heads with one another. So that if there was a critique I could make about a good review that he's done, it would only be that point there.
I was also moved quite a bit, for the most part, with this video, with the video of stock footage he used. I think that was probably the biggest thing that affected me while watching the video, and I thought the choice to use it was quite interesting. The way it almost reminded me of perhaps maybe a PBS documentary in some ways, where the way he was using, he was trying to create a mood much similar to Milan Jeff in a way, to what the story was getting at. It's, the city versus nature, and I because frankly, there's not too much visual to go with this. I'm sure the covers aren't that incredible to look at. If there are any covers, with this story on it, I think they kind of like worked fairly well with sort of this tone he had in his voice when he was doing this video. I don't know if anybody else picked up on that. If anybody felt it seemed his reading seemed a little bit different than some of the other videos he's done. It was very, very almost melancholy in a way. I felt really relaxed while watching this video, and it did put me in mind of what it takes to like leave the city, leave all of this, the trappings of technology and everything. So I believe that was a conscious artistic choice on his part. I'd say he did. I'd say he did fairly well with analysis of the story as well. It being maybe a little the mic being just a little more quiet than I'd like. That's really my biggest qualms with the video.
I'm not sure if I have much to say that Manos didn't already cover. The PBS thing was spot on. It really felt like a very masterpiece theater kind of vibe to it. The start on the fire and just that sort of calm tone of voice. Even though it did say who reviews the reviews, but I don't know. The stock footage, I was again of two minds about on that. It was I think it did fit in with that tone that I think he was going for. After a while, it did sort of feel kind of like it was like a travelogue. But there were some places where I think it was very effective, like where he had the New York cityscape superimposed over the African savannah. That was pretty effective for what he was trying to do. I think there needed to be more moments like that, but it seems to be something of a visual element that he's been using over the past couple of videos. He used it in the Super Mario Brothers as well, as sort of having two images superimposed, slightly transparent on top of one another to express an amalgamation of points together. So I liked that. He still has some problems. I still think he should go back and do multiple takes of some of his lines. There's still some words he seems to be just sort of rushing through, not quite emphasizing, not quite getting all the syllables, enunciation out there as much as he could. I think he should just go back and listen to his audio, and then if need be, fill in the gaps with another take or two, just until it gets more polished. But otherwise, I think this is really good. I think he had some pretty good analysis, even existential a little bit. It just needs to be polished a little bit more.
Yeah. Just like you, Lance, my problems aren't really content related. I think he covers quite a bit in a small amount of time, and again, like some of the others, the synopsis actually probably as more than anybody else, the synopsis is really, really well woven into the analysis. I like that he, I think he does. I think this better than some of the others that one of the things that we asked for, where he opens up with kind of a pretty short synopsis and then just runs right into analysis, and then gives us the details that we need as he goes, sprinkles them in as he goes through, and I really appreciate that. Somebody earlier mentioned that somebody else, and I forget who it was, maybe it was Curious Low, I forget, is talking too fast. I think that he definitely is talking a little fast, and it's not that I can't keep up with him, it's that like Lance was saying, some of his words get lost and he gets a little garbled, and there are certain words that are difficult to make out. I think that he in the language department he fell back a week again. I thought that last time he had really cleared some of this up, and I think this time he's kind of fallen back a little bit. I think it's back to being a little bit overwritten. Like I said about the first week, it's not as bad as I thought that one was, but it's still got some of that where it's just, and maybe it's just me. I just don't think it's enough plain English. Sometimes it feels kind of clunky, and there's a cumbersome use of language kind of gets in the way. The ideas are there. He clearly understands his material, but I just don't think that you have to try to assert your authority on the subject by trying to sound really college professory. And maybe that's me, and I don't mean it to be. I wonder if that's what he's doing, or if he's just writing the way he usually talks. But it doesn't sound real natural to me.
Maybe he's super nerdy.
Oh, Vince. And again, I think I make these comments about DPSTQ too because I think I'm somewhat of a kindred spirit with him on this. I get comments on my rewinds not all the time, but sometimes where people are like, "You use really big words," I just so I'm not complaining that his vocabulary is too large. I just think that sometimes he uses more flowery words than he needs when something a little bit more simple would suffice. And then there are places where like I said, a word will just come out wrong. Like when he said encapsulated, it sounded like he said capsulated, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But I also think that better recording equipment would help because like Mano said, it was really quiet like the last one, and I think that part of his issue is just he doesn't have a real great microphone. I don't think that that's all of it. I think that that's just a small thing. But if he could get some equipment that was a little bit more sophisticated, it might help clear some of that up. But like I said, I don't have a lot of content problems. I thought that I was really surprised by how much he managed to get in a few minutes, and I thought that it was ambitious to go after Hemingway. Not go after Hemingway. He didn't really have a whole lot of problems. He went after Hemingway. That AK-47 that I thought that somebody else should have been building. But anyway, but no, I was impressed that he went for something like this because a lot of us would go, wow, I don't want to read that. That sounds like English paper stuff, And so I think it's cool that he has such an appreciation for classic literature. So anyway, one last thing. I'm sorry. I think part of the problem with I'm talking a lot about his audio. I think part of the problem with that too was that he sounded kind of monotone, and I think it was. He doesn't usually sound like that. I think it was because he was trying so hard to dramatize his reading to sound like Masterpiece Theater.
That's what I was thinking too.
And so I think that opening it up that way was cool, but I don't think you can get away with doing your entire video that way because after a while it got to be kind of droning. And I'm not saying he's droning. I think he was doing a voice, and I don't think the voice worked all the way. So anyway.
I'd like to comment on one of the things you mentioned just now, Captain Logan, about
sure.
You mentioned that he was able to squeeze a lot into a short amount of time, and that there wasn't the plot summary wasn't as much. I as a general thing, I think that sort of speaks as to what you can do with a very specific choice of subject matter, and that there really isn't much plot summary to do in this kind of short story. It's the man who's lying, dying, and being introspective. It's much more character driven than plot driven. So, in that sense, if you really have a lot of analysis to deliver, then doing something like that is a very smart idea. You can just get the plot synopsis out of the way because there isn't much of one to speak of, and then spend the rest of it doing analysis and review. So I think that might have helped him in this case, and I think that was a good choice for that reason.
I gotta hand it to him to go after and take on Hemingway.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't said that.
Finally, someone exposed that hack.
A contest of men, bare knuckle boxing, Ernest Hemingway, DPSTQ2, 2 men enter,
Oh.
one man leaves.
Well, wasn't it great though that we asked for a short story and somebody comes up with something like Hemingway? That's fantastic.
I remember the last time I fought Hemingway. I fought him and a bear at the same time. And,
Was it a cage match?
Yeah, luckily the bear was in the
Was it a
cage.
bear
We were
cage?
outside drinking.
Okay, good. That would make it a little bit easier.
I got in a drunken bar fight with Merrill Hemingway.
Was that a cage? No? Okay. Let's move on, shall we? Here comes our last contestant this week. It's SXE Blues' review of The Adventure of the Dancing Men by Arthur Conan Doyle, a Holmes story.
Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking a look at the Sherlock Holmes short story, The Adventure of the Dancing Men. Now, this was the third to appear in the collection known as The Return of Sherlock Holmes, as written by Holmes' creator, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and was originally published in 1903. Now, this is said to be one of Doyle's personal favorites. In retrospect, he went back and compiled a list of 17 of what he thought were his best Holmes works, and this is actually sitting at the number 3 spot, which I think is rather interesting. But essentially, this story sees the intrepid Holmes taking up the case of Mr. Hilton Cubitt, who's become greatly concerned for the well-being of his younger wife after some mysterious messages have appeared at their homestead. The messages are in the form of these small hieroglyphs, these stick figures in various strange positions, earning them the name, as the title suggests, the Dancing Men.
So, I think that, I really liked this review. I thought it was the most solid review that, I'm not going to say necessarily all season, but I was really pleased with it. He really gets into, I had no idea that there was anybody who was really going to critique the prose style of the story, and I felt like he was doing this story specifically, even if it did extend to, other of, Doyle's stories. But, he really, he demonstrated understanding, and, he talks about what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. He really gets to the point immediately, and then he hangs there the entire video. There's no beating around the bush, and I mean, sure, there's a little bit of summary. You have to have a little bit of summary. But really, the summary was used to support his points. And it was highly pleasing to me. And, since I have to say something about the visuals, I guess, the visuals were nice. I like the little dancing men, little code, but it was just very pleasing to me, and I think I should stop talking right about now.
I just thought I'd give a little space because I thought you should have stopped now. Okay, go ahead, Spot.
Clearly, this is XXE's Blues. This is by far the best review that he's done in this challenge. What's remarkable about this particular is that it seems that every single challenge is progressively better, and it seems as though even though he gets progressively better, the way that he presents it is almost the exact same way. So it's almost as if, as I was mentioning before with honing one's craft, he's honing his material, but it's not like he's changing the way he's presenting it, which I think is a good mark of somebody who really progresses well as a reviewer, is somebody that doesn't necessarily say, okay, I'm going to change the format, I'm going to completely change the way I do it, I'm just going to hone what I need to fix with the individual aspects of it. And I think I don't want to get into the habit of rewarding somebody and saying, okay, they did a fantastic review because they had all these video overlays and they had all this audio work and it was really well polished, because at the end of the day, the review itself is what we're critiquing. And I think SXE Blues, I keep pronouncing his name wrong. I think SXE Blues, I'm just going to say, I think he's a prime example of this particular challenge, of somebody who didn't have the polished skills of Milan Jeff, but I think he did a better review because he stuck with the material at hand. He gave a good critique of the material that he was reviewing. He knew the material that he was reviewing. He encompassed the character of Holmes while still sticking to the short story that he was reviewing itself. The stills worked very well. The transitions worked very well in this review. I don't want to sound like a mark for the guy, but it seems, based on the reviews in this particular challenge, SXE Blues was clearly one of my favorites, just because he knew what he was doing right from the beginning, and he didn't have to overly polish the material. What was crucial was a solid review, and he executed it very, very well.
I have to agree. I think this video by Blues, he was very confident. And I've noticed that over the last few videos, actually, last maybe 2 or 3 videos. He seems really comfortable in what he's been doing and the choices he's been making for these challenges. And I was
He's playing the game, Vince.
Yeah, he's playing it. And
he's drinking.
But he will be next week if he's still in. You just...
He does a nice job summing up the character, and also he does go through the story point by point, and I do love the visuals. Matter of fact, he even makes a point of mentioning where he got most of the visuals, actually. And I love the use of the dancing men, where he shows like parts of them on the page, and then maybe the whole alphabet of them. And he does it in a well-paced way, because he's doing it as he's talking about how they fit into the story. So I thought that was just really well done. It made me want to read the story, and I had not read this one.
Of all the ones that have been submitted this time, this is the only one that I have actually read before. And when I first heard what this challenge was going to be, my immediate thought was, if I was doing this, I'd do a Sherlock Holmes story. And I do remember this one in particular. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of SXE Blues' videos up till now, I admit I've been somewhat underwhelmed with. This one, however, was, as many have said, definitely his strongest. And I was pretty impressed with this. And like what I was saying before, when we were talking about DPS TQ2, it's about choosing subject matter that works for this format and for this contest. The images by Sidney Paget are almost as iconic as the characters of Holmes and Watson themselves. So he choosing something that has illustrations to go with, such wonderful illustrations to go with, certainly makes it easier to have a good visual element to it. And even though, like Review Spot's saying, he doesn't have the exciting sort of editing and visual effects and stuff like that, he still delivers a solid review. And this is my favorite of the ones that he's done so far. It's very well researched, very well spoken. One thing I can say though, that this sort of is the opposite of Zazubar, where I was saying that he tends to stay on that one really high, really loud, really excited note and never strays off that. SXE Blues sort of is at the bottom of that, where he sort of has a very, very low, very calm, that kind of tone the entire time. And I think he could stand to bring it up, whereas Zazubar could stand to bring it down a little bit. Just vary how you present your material and take those important points and make sure to emphasize them. And just in terms of recording, he does need to pump up the volume if he can anymore, because it is really soft.
Although I think his volume problems are less than they have been. I think this one actually sounded a little bit better, but I could have been mistaken. I don't remember having to turn up my volume all the way like I did with DPSDQ2. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. It's definitely his best video. It's definitely one of the best videos of the week. The organization was astoundingly good. I think that this was also one of the best organized videos. Once again, doing what we asked for. He starts with a bit of a synopsis, and then he weaves a little bit more synopsis as he goes along. He immediately starts talking about the effectiveness of the writing at the 130 mark. And as Vince said, there weren't a lot of people who talked about, specifically the prose style. And again, being an English guy, I really appreciated some of that. I was hoping for more of that, and I think that not only did he talk about it, but I think he nailed it and talked as much as he could possibly get in, for this short of a period. Once again, awesome use of pictures, obviously appropriate, and like you said, really good choice, because he picked something that he could find pictures that went with. And I'm glad that he showed the code, the dancing men, so that we knew what he was talking about. And thank goodness that went along with the story, or it would have been more difficult for us to understand what he was talking about. And he picked something, once again, it's personal. He picked something that he has a passion for. He does a really good job early on of asserting his authority on this topic. When he says, having read the entirety of the Holmes canon a few times over, I'm like, yep, he knows what he's talking about, and then right after that, comparing it to Law & Order. Fantastic. I like that he mentions things that other people might not think of, like that there are hints to the Chicago mob, and that gives us some cultural relevance to the time, things like that. I probably wouldn't have caught that reading the story, and I think I may have read this one years ago. I don't really remember now, but I doubt. I don't know those sorts of things. I don't know the history of that period well enough. I probably wouldn't catch that. So I appreciate somebody Bless you. So I appreciate somebody mentioning that. And then by the 2:30 mark, he's already giving some criticisms. He doesn't wait till to the tail end like a couple other people did. In the last 30 seconds. Oh yeah, and I didn't really quite like this part. And he doesn't have a lot of negative things to say because, of course, it's a story he loves. There's all we're never asking people to stretch for a problem, But the criticism, the big one that he gives is really valid. Yeah, that's it, man. I thought it was great. And I also have to add, now that I'm thinking about it, that it was impressive that this was one of my favorite videos, and it's a minute shorter than we asked for. That's impressive.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
That it's 4 minutes long. That in and of itself is really impressive.
It's very simple but effective. A very simple but effective video, and I think that works in his favor very much.
Being concise is also highly important. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go on now to the top banana, and we're going to keep the same order. So, Vince, who would you like to vote this week for top banana?
I think the most solid review was SXE Blues, so I was really pleased with it.
Spot.
I'm going to go with SXE Blues.
Manos.
This was really tough. There were some very good videos this week, but I'm going to go also with SXE Blues.
Lance.
Also very tough. As I said before, Milan Jeff was the one I enjoyed the most. Was the one I enjoyed the most. But I think that SXE Blues had the stronger review, so I'll go with SXE Blues.
And I'm going to make it unanimous. I also thought he had the strongest review. Fantastic. But there were several. But yep, that's my vote too. So 5 out of 5. Which is great, because this is only the second time this year we've done that on anything. Okay, let's move on now to, unfortunately, the vote-off. And I don't know about you guys, but this is a super, super tough one for me.
This is a really hard one.
This is maybe the hardest one of the season so far for me. I'm kind of glad I'm going last, actually. So, Vince!
I'm up first.
So, Vince, who would you like to vote off this week? Take your time.
Hang on while I listen to Queen's Under Pressure.
Hey, don't forget David Bowie.
Yeah, I can't forget Bowie.
Oh yeah. We can't leave the bow anyway.
Oh, this needs to be the music for this week. When
I can't do that. I'm not going to use licensed music. I don't want to get pulled again.
You should just put in a little song that's like, "This is where licensed music goes." Yeah.
This is the voting off music.
And then it says, like, on the screen,
by the 5 of us.
And you're like, just imagine that this is the licensed music you're hearing right now.
I think we're stalling.
One of the judges just wrote a book. The other guy does comic books too.
So anyway, the
guy just reviewed an energy drink.
One guy wore a dress in a video, and then there's Vince.
Yeah!
Will it be breaking copyright if we sing Under Pressure while Vince is doing it? Does that count as a copyright violation?
Okay, so Vince, who are you going to vote off this week?
I'm going to vote off Milan Jeff. It was just, like, sure, his visuals were good, but in order to actually be a reviewer, you have to review. And he doesn't really do that. So,
all right, Spot.
I'm going to have to go with Milan Jeff 1992 as well. Just such an entertaining video. But at the end of the day, we're judging reviews, and I didn't really feel a lot of review in the particular video that he made.
Manos.
We have unfortunately gotten to the point in the series where I now vote off a video that I liked, but it was, the least extraordinary of the 5. And I hate to say that, but I'm going to have to go with Zazubar's.
Go ahead, Lance.
This one is also a very tough one for me. There were very strong entries for various different reasons. I think they're sort of falling into their into what they need to do to get through this contest. So there wasn't one single one that I could very easily single out for voting off. But since I have to do that, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Curious Low. Her video.
What?
Her video
wow.
was very ambitious.
What a twist.
Yeah.
God, you're so wrong.
I am so wrong, but I stand by my wrongness. No, it was as I said before, it was a very ambitious video. I just don't think that their choices really panned out as well as they could have, and that lowered it for me. I think that it just didn't gel.
Oh, flaws.
Wow. That was actually my second choice for top 100.
What? Mine too. Wow. But I'm sorry, Lance. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm sorry for making fun of you. I was just like, no. I feel like I'm totally. Lance over there going, God, I don't know if I'm coming back.
I was gonna say, is Lance coming back next show?
Well,
You'd like to announce the return of Eric.
Or Corellian. anyway, no, Lance.
That would be hilarious. Yeah, I'm voting for my wife.
Oh, wait, judge this season? What am I even talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, I really, really hate to do this. I don't see. This has happened too many videos in a row, I think, with Milan Jeff, where he's done something I thought was extremely entertaining and had a lot of good ideas in it, and visually was amazing. But he can't keep coasting on really awesome mechanics. I feel like it's too late in the game to. To wait another week to hope that at some point the critical analysis comes in. I just don't think we've seen enough of that from him. And there were some others that I felt like were had some problems in certain areas, but none where just a whole thing was missing. And as entertaining as it was, and as super fun as it was, I too have to vote off Milan Jeff, and I hate it because he's so much fun to watch. And he's going to keep making videos, and I'm going to keep watching him, but I just don't think he's got the review part down, and so hate it. But I'm voting him off as well, and that makes it 3-1 to 1. And so that's going to be it. Milan Jeff is voted off this week. Thanks a lot for being with us. It's been fun. It's been super fun to watch his stuff. Anybody else want to cry right now?
I think Milan Jeff has the ability. I just think I'm not certain that I'm right about this. I just feel like he finds it to be the least important part of making the video. So I think he has ability to be critical. I just don't think he is being critical.
Yeah, and I mean, for his own channel, I would certainly watch those videos. You know what I mean?
I loved his videos.
Just the way they are.
There's nothing that says that you can't make videos that have nothing to do with reviewing. But it is a competition about reviewers.
The reviewers.
But it is very interesting the fact of who we chose as Top Banana and who we chose as who we were voting out. Because I mean, really, if you looked at it from a presentation end of it, I mean, clearly one is leaps and bounds from the other. But it's a good lesson to the people who have stuck around for future challenges to say, you know what, I don't necessarily need to go George Lucas on my review.
Oh, please never go George Lucas on anything.
Oh, absolutely. I could put content in there, and it supersedes, whatever I'm doing visually or whatever I'm adding, any spice to the blend. I mean, the content is key, and SXE Blues is a clear clear example of that.
I'm really glad you said that. I mean, that brings some things back into perspective because from the very beginning of last season, I tried to make the biggest deal I could out of don't feel like you have to have certain equipment to possibly go all the way. I mean,
exactly.
We had people who came on who didn't even own video cameras, and who just put stuff, with a picture in front or had different pictures. Who was it? Who am I thinking of? Kirk, I'm blanking.
Tori GNR1?
No, Shades, thanks. Shades and I talk a lot now, and I know his real name, and I forgot his username. But anyway, Shades, I think was fourth?
Yeah, he was fourth.
To the end last time, and he didn't use a video camera ever. He didn't even do a whole lot of editing, but his content and his writing was so good he got that far.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that, I mean, like one of these things can do it for you over the other one, and that's the tough part. But I mean, that's not to say that Milan Jeff isn't a fantastic writer. The man's got a great use of language. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sad. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about the challenge for next time, shall we? We've got 4 people left.
Halfway point.
Yeah, halfway point, and just like last year, we're going to ask the contestants this time to do something that has to do with some of our videos. And
here we go.
The challenge this time is to review an item already reviewed by one of the contest judges.
That might be hard.
Yeah.
It's gonna
I
be
know. I don't know if I've done many items.
Now here's
anything
that was reviewed, yeah,
Okay.
anything that we made a video about that was a review. Let me emphasize that part. Anything that we did a video on that was a review is game for this. Anything, movies, television, what action figures,
Yodeling pickles. You laugh, but I did a review on a yodeling pickle.
That's why I saw it, and that's why I'm. Okay. Wasn't that like 2 years ago?
Something like that, yeah, a year and a half ago.
Okay, so sorry, you broke me up. Now I can't talk.
I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. It's just if I were doing this challenge, I would do whatever I could do to get the yodeling pickle and review it. That's what I would do. Okay. So what we want you guys to do first is to get in touch with each other, personal messages, Gmail, whatever. Before you even get started, everybody needs to get a hold of each other and decide who is going to do which judge, or who is going to review something of each judge. Not anyway.
My number's this, by the way.
I was going to say, I like how you worded it before, Cap.
I know, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so let me reiterate. We can't have two different contestants doing something of the same judge. So, but we're not going to assign them ahead of time because we just don't know what you own or what you have access to. So the hope is that out of the four of you, one person will work out with each of the judges, and like last time, Geekvolution, me and Vince count as one. So it's Geekvolution, it's Review Spot, it's the Real Manos, and it's Fusion. Now, the other thing I want to mention with this too is because. And Fusion, I don't mean to single you out, but Fusion has made far fewer videos than the rest of us, so that's not a problem. That's just true. So if there's one judge, and it's probably going to be Fusion, if there's one judge that nobody can find anything that they have access to or that they own that they can review, then you can default to Eric.
Ooh.
You can go to blows himself up, dude. Because he hasn't made videos in a while, but he's got a lot of old stuff that he reviewed, and he was one of our judges last year. So if that has to happen, default to blows himself up, dude. Please let me know if you're going to do that though, just so we know. But anyway, so but hopefully somebody will have something that Fusion has reviewed.
I hope so. I want to join in on the fun too.
Yeah. I hope. I just don't want to. I just don't want it to ruin the whole challenge. So but hopefully. I mean, it's not like you've done nothing but obscure things.
Perhaps Mr. Fusion should start churning out videos now of just stuff. Like right now, I'm reviewing chiclets. If anybody would like to.
I meant to mention that. Actually, you have a challenge too, Fusion. It's to make 20 videos by Monday. Okay.
I got it. I'm on it right now. I've already put out 5 more in the past 20 seconds, just since you said that.
This is me eating my sandwich.
Nobody is going to be able to review your shoelaces, dude. It's not going to happen.
Do you think that they should stay away from reviewing the stuff that he reviewed last season?
Oh, good question. I was about to ask that.
I don't know. Is that a problem? I don't think that's a problem.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, just asking.
No, thank you for mentioning that. I wouldn't have thought of that. Spot, what do you think?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. Thanks for mentioning that, Vince. That's a good point. Because I mean, we lose half his videos if we did. So
Not half my videos.
I'm sorry.
Hang on, let's devalue Mr. Fusion.
No, I'm joking. Okay, well, I mean, keep in mind, Fusion hasn't been doing this a real long time. He was a contestant last year. But anyway, so the focus on this one is to put your own spin and unique perspective on something that other reviewers have talked about and in reviews that your viewers might be familiar with. This is something, I don't know about you guys, this is something I find I have to deal with quite a bit, where I get comments quite a bit about things that I've reviewed that other far more popular reviewers than me have reviewed, and people compare them. They compare and contrast them. Sometimes I'll get, yours is not nearly as good as this guy's, or, yours is a little better than this guy's, and we get this sometimes. So ordinarily, I personally don't like to watch other people's reviews before doing my own if I know I'm going to review something, but I think it is kind of an interesting experiment to see what other people do differently from you. So this time we're going to ask you to do that. And so pick something that one of the judges have done, watch the review, and then put your own spin on it. You don't have to worry about making a better review than ours. That would be unfair.
Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is to do your very, very best work and try to be as insightful on something as you can. So the idea is see if you can find that thing that other reviewers aren't talking about. know. And I mean, you're not always going to be able to do that, but if you can, and that's going to be part of the choice, you know. If you can find something that somebody didn't really come up with on their own, or somebody else, that's kind of the idea. What else do I have to say about this?
If you on the stage us, taste our wrath.
So the time limit on this is really interesting. I thought this would be kind of a fun challenge also. The time limit on this is to be no more or less than a minute away from the other review.
I thought you were about to say a minute.
No. No more or less away than a minute, longer or shorter than the other review.
Should we exclude like podcast reviews then?
I was about to say, don't choose my Green Hornet entry from last year's.
Yeah. It can't be a podcast. It can't be anything. I mean, I think maybe 15, 20-minute reviews are okay, but nothing more than that. So okay, nothing more than 20 minutes. Whew. That's a lot. But I do have a few 20-minute reviews. I'm sure Manos has one or two that are that long.
Couple.
But anyway, yeah. So not podcast reviews. Yeah, so if you have a question about something, let us know. We can make judgment calls if you're not sure about something. This is a tough one to come up with all the contingencies. Thank you, Vince, for mentioning that, because I wouldn't have thought of that. But anyway, so part of the challenge too is to talk about something that we talked about in about the length we talked about it. So that you don't get to go a whole several minutes less than we did. You have to use all that time. I mean, if you pick something we only did 5 minutes, then that's fine,
I do have a comment. This isn't about the challenge itself, but I just wanted to follow up on something from the last round when DPSTQ2 did that use of my clips in his video. He actually sent me a message. That actually wasn't the way he had originally done it. It was ran too long, so he had an alternate, longer, more in-depth version that he sent to me, sending me a link to, and it was hilarious. I loved it. So I just want to throw that out there and say, yeah, I like that.
Oh, I want to see that.
If he's okay with that, I'll send the link out.
Yeah, that's.
So yeah, just let us know, DPSTQ2.
The due date on this one is Tuesday, March 6th.
Ooh, the day before my birthday.
Oh, happy early birthday, Fusion. All right, well, thanks again for watching Who Reviews the Reviewers, and we'll see you again very soon. We're at the halfway point. It's very exciting. We haven't had any 3-month gaps yet, so that's good. And we'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm the real Manos.
I'm the Review Spot.
I'm Vince.
And I am Mr. Fusion.